Good morning. Should have got a water. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well after the storm. For those of you in Southeast Louisiana, South Louisiana, and into Mississippi, hope you guys are doing well after Hurricane Francine. But joining in today, guys, this is another live Q&A. Good morning, Ray. Good morning. Hope you're doing well in Mississippi. I don't know if that rain hit you from the back end of that storm, but so today we're doing another live Q&A on real estate and creative financing. And so if you've got questions, put it in the chat, or you can even request to come live. I will answer them live here with you guys. All right, that's good. That's good. Well, I want to start off today by sharing why I pivoted to where, I use creative financing for all my deals. So I want to kind of open up, talk about that. And then if you've got questions, again, put it in the chat or request to come live, and you and I'll pull you up on the live here and we'll talk together. But so I had, a lot of you guys know, so my background was in flipping, and then I added in wholesaling. I'm pulling something on my computer, and then I'll show you guys. This is one of the stories. Maybe you've heard me share it before, but this is what really forced me into doing more creative deals. So, got into the industry. My first deal was like cash and money from an inheritance. Not a ton. It was $40,000, so it wasn't a ton. My first deal I bought with that $40,000, and then I did the renovation with a Home Depot credit card, which was like 2 years, same as cash, so 0% interest if I paid it off within 2 years. Did the majority of the work myself, stuff like that. Deals, I was still working a W-2 at that point. So deals 2, 3, and 4, I got a line of credit against. So that first property I bought was a live-in flip, right? I used that inheritance. I bought a condo. I moved into it. And so I owned it, quote unquote, free and clear, right? Paid cash for it. So because I was working I was doing property management at that point for the marina, I then was able to qualify for a line of credit. This is the one and only time I've ever gone to a bank and qualified for something. So I got a home equity line of credit, free and clear condo. They gave me a credit for 60 grand, right? I used an inheritance of 40,000 to buy the place, and I used about 5,000 in credit card, like a Home Depot credit card, to do the renovation. Well, it was just the materials, right? The rest was, sweat equity. And so, but then I was able to tap into that $60,000 line of credit, which is like a credit card, right? You use it, you have to wait until you pay it off to be able, to get that credit back to use it again. So my next few deals were slow, right? Because I was limited to the money that I was using. And so then after a handful of those deals, at that point I was wholesaling a lot. So I was only flipping some, but wholesaling a ton, just because I was getting tight on the cash. And then around that time, I learned how to use private money. So this is everyday individual folks who wanted to lend on my deals, and so they would lend on my flips. And so that was how I was able to start doing a lot more flips at the same time. And bigger flips, full gut, stuff like that. So that is something that really learning how to raise private money from everyday individual folks. I've never used hard money, meaning I went to a hard money lender, all of that stuff, which is good and fine if you've done that, right? So I just want to talk you through some of my financing history with deals. So, at that point now I'm doing a handful of flips. I'm still wholesaling deals as well. And so that is pitting food. Right around that time I was full-time. And so around 2017, I had gone full-time where I was flipping and wholesaling. That was, which was, great. But I was starting at that point the today money was covered. You know, kind of talked about that yesterday in the live Q&A. Is like, you know, you've got to figure out how you want real estate to serve you. At that point, once I'd left my last job, which was, you know, being property manager, right? Then I needed to be able to pay my monthly bills, my living expenses, and so that's where the quick profit, right? So wholesales was the easiest as far as the quickest profit. Flips might have taken 3-6+ months to get, you know, the profit from when I purchased the deal until once it sold and cashed out. So, which is great. I mean, it was a business, right? Buy low, sell high. Whether it's immediately for an assignment profit or it's buy low, you know, buy ugly, renovate it, make it pretty, sell high, right? So had that going on, and at that point I'm rocking and rolling. I'm really starting to, you know, there's fuel on my fire. I'm getting traction, and in 2017, I think that's when I was starting to say, okay, I'm doing this stuff. Into 2018, I'm like, hey, I need to, I'm working so hard, right? So in wholesaling and flipping, you work so hard. I absolutely traded one job for another. And my new boss sucked, right? Because I mean, I just put my head down and I grind it out. So, but there was a point when I was flipping and wholesaling that I said, hey, I got into real estate for the time freedom and the financial freedom, and I'm not seeing that. So, and one of the big things I realized is that, like, with rentals, you know, with a flip and a wholesale deal, you're only as good as your next, you know, your next deal, right? So you're always having to hunt for the next deal because basically nothing is reoccurring. You get paid out once and you're done. And so one of the things that I was missing was, like, basically the reoccurring income that comes from rentals. That was something I was looking at. I was like, man, that's something that I want, right? So that's when I started saying, hey, I want to also start having some rentals. But obviously the big question came down to, how am I going to finance them? So many years ago, that was like my big holdup with rentals, was because I would be able to raise private money and they would lend on, you know, 12 months or less for my flips. But, you know, that type of financing isn't ideal for a rental. So I had to fix the ability to get financing. At that point, banks wouldn't touch me. You know, I had left my job in 2017. So at that point, I hadn't even been self-employed to where, you know, I was giving myself a salary. Like, I didn't have my entities set up correctly. Like, all these things, I was out there doing deals, right? So that's when I said, hey, what does that look like? So I remember there's a deal that I did. And so I want to show you. You're going to see my laptop again. All right. So there's this property on 566 Jessica Way that I got under contract. Look at this pretty house, you guys. It was a 2008 build. And when I came in contact with this house, the woman was behind on her property taxes. She owned it free and clear, except for she had 4 judgments. She was behind on her property taxes. She had, she had an HOA lien, I think a credit card lien, and a payday loan lien. Okay. And so she was gearing up to lose this house or not paying the property taxes for multiple years, okay? And obviously you can tell she wasn't paying the HOA. She wasn't, you know, she was getting like, the payday loans, right? Like she was in a financial bind. And if you guys have been listening to my lives, this house 1000% should be in my legacy portfolio. My legacy portfolio is what I see as my long-term rentals. It's like what I want to end up with, right? And give me 25 nice houses like this and I am a happy camper. So you can kind of see here, and it's in a nice neighborhood. Again, 2008 build. So when I contracted this deal, again, at that point, I could only get financing for 12 months. What did I do? At that point, I just leaned on the skill sets that I had, which was flipping and wholesaling. And this one, honestly, I should have taken it down and flipped it. It would have been an easier flip. But what I did was I wholesaled it, guys. And look what it's, obviously we don't trust a Zestimate or a Redfin estimate. But look, it has it at $260,000 is what they estimate it's worth today. Y'all, I had it under contract for $93,000. $93,000. And it probably, for a rental, now this was a hoarder house, it probably needed, back then it needed 15 to 20 in work to get it rent ready. And I hate looking at this. This is one of my top properties that I regret wholesaling. Now, I made like an $18,000 assignment fee on this or something like that. But this should 1000% be in my portfolio. But why is it not? Because I didn't have the right skills at that time to take it down. So let's talk through that. So I do that deal, sure. I made that money wholesaling it. And some of you guys may say, Courtney, I would totally take that cash any day of the week. And look, I'm thankful for it. But a lot of times with the today money, it's really hard to say where that $18,000 went. I'm sure it went to overhead. I'm sure a little bit went into my personal pocket as a salary advance or, something like that. But I don't have anything to account for it other than I stayed in the business a little bit longer, right? Maybe it went towards me going to a conference. I don't know, right? But one of the biggest things was when this deal happened, it pissed me off because I wished I would have been able to have the skills to be able to take it down with creative financing. I'll be honest, in hindsight, I should have been able to buy that property with seller financing all day long. All day long. But the reality is that my skills were lacking. And also mentally, right? I was not ready for that deal. And so know that the deals that you do today are a direct reflection of your current skill sets and your current mindset. If you're like, hey, I'm not doing deals right now, but I want to start doing wholesale deals, right? Well, then again, then say, hey, let's assess what my skill sets are. What are skill sets? Skill sets are knowledge, right? So look at all these books, right? Knowledge. Skill sets are knowledge applied, right? It's an actual thing that you can go out and do. And so the reality there is that I didn't have the skill sets to learn how to either raise long-term private money, right? An individual would give me, capital for a long-term rental project, or I didn't know how to do creative financing deals. So that is the deal that sent me learning how to do creative deals and learning how to structure them. It also sent me to learn how to do long-term private money. Those are two skill sets that I started reading books about the topics. I started attending conferences around the topics. I started learning from people around that topic. At the end of the day, I want to encourage you, if there's like, hey, there's something missing in your life, then I would encourage you to grow into the conversations you're around. So if you're like, hey, I want to be a real estate investor, then I want to encourage you, read the books, listen to the podcast, get in rooms that are talking about real estate investing, right? Now that's very vague, right? But maybe you're like, hey, I want to learn about creative financing. I would encourage you to get in rooms talking about creative financing. One of the best suggestions that I can say is get around other creative investors. Because if you're wanting to learn how to do creative financing, but you're spending time around people who are doing, let's just say, the Burr method all day, well, then they're going to be talking about, maybe using hard money to buy the property, and then they're looking at DSCR loans to refinance, right? Like, I want to encourage you, if you're like, hey, I want to do seller finance, I want to do subject to deals, I want to do these types of things, well, then I want to encourage you to get around the conversations of folks who are doing those types of deals. And so I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit of my backstory of what drove me into more of where, creative financing. Now, the majority of my deals are bought with creative financing. It is literally only bought with creative financing or long-term private money. I'll be honest, I've got some folks who are like, hey, Courtney, I would love to lend you money, but I want it to be 12 months or less. I'm like, especially in this market, I haven't flipped a property in like 2 years. So like when I've gone in, done the renovation, and I bought and sold it. That's not me. I've either bought it. If I've renovated a property, I'm keeping it. And so most of the times, like, hey, if I want to lend you money, for a 12-month period, that doesn't make sense, right? Because I'm wanting to keep as rental. So, but again, maybe there's something you're saying, hey, I want to learn more about XYZ, or hey, man, I've been, fill in the blank. That deal pissed me off enough where like, every time I look at it, where I'm like, man, look, y'all, if I got it under contract at the $93,000, if I put, let's just say even 30, between purchase price, some money to the seller, and I'm sorry, not some money to the seller, some holding cost, the cost for, let's just say, the rehab, the various things like that, closing costs, all that. So let's just say I'm all in, even like 125. If I would have been all in 125 in that deal, and I think it was either a 2018, 2017 deal, something like that. Think about where I would be at right now. That property being worth $250 to $275. And I would probably, owe somewhere around $120 on it. Be careful, wholesalers and flippers. Be careful. Don't sell away from your family the best properties. Meaning, know when to have properties that you say, no, this one's staying in the family portfolio, right? This one's going to be a property that we keep. The best areas, the best properties. I personally prefer, like I've been telling you guys, is the 1990 or newer properties in great neighborhoods, great school districts, right? And so I regret, there's a handful of them that I regret that I sold for today money for quick profits away from my family when I could have put in some more effort to keep them. So with that being said, if you've got any questions, put them into the comments, whether it's about creative financing, whether it is about real estate in general, or you can request to join me live to have a conversation today. Ultimately, I wanted to share that with you guys, and every single time that I go back and I review that property, it fires me up because that deal, although it made me money, has made me significantly more than that assignment fee with how much it has inspired me to improve my skills and to do my best when I have the right deals in front of me to get that deal done with safe financing, right? To figure it out, to figure out the financing part. Like, it's not easy for all of us, right? And so, but, whether it's, hey, let me improve my skills, let me learn all the different ways I could get this deal financed, let me lift every stone, let me try every option, right? So holler if you guys have any questions. For those who are asking, last night Hurricane Francine came in through New Orleans. We're okay. Obviously, we have power back. We actually never lost power, so that's a miracle. And I am currently getting reports in on all my properties, and then we're going to drive by the ones that are vacant or under contract. So far, I only have a fence down at one of my properties, and so, you know, thankfully everyone has reported that they're okay. Even, you know, so thankful to hear all that part. So hopefully you guys, especially those of you guys who were in the path of Hurricane Francine, hope you guys are okay as well. But that's the case study that I share a lot of times when people say, Courtney, what got you into doing creative deals? And really, that's just a financing technique, right? It's at the end of the day, that's how I fund the deals that I buy. So if you guys got a question, maybe a deal you're working on, maybe my dog over here is barrel rolling on the couch and causing a scene over here. But if you guys got a question, I'll stay. My goal has been each day by going live is to stay for about an hour and to answer as many questions as I can. If there happens to not be a ton of questions, I can talk about a few things. Otherwise, I can, I don't want to cut it short, but we'll see. For those of you who are in the greater New Orleans area, I know with the impact of the hurricane, there is an investor meetup that might actually still be happening tonight. The West Bank meetup that happens in Gretna. And so I'm actually waiting to hear. One of my business partners puts it on. I am waiting to hear if they are still going to have it tonight. And if so, I will be attending it myself. But if you are not aware of that meetup that happens on the second. Look at that. They're out pitting mail today. Oh, that's good. Good job, United States Postal Service. So they're back at it, going through the streets of New Orleans, pitting out mail. So ultimately, if the West Bank RIA is the second Thursday of every month. So we'll see if that happens tonight in Gretna. If so, I plan to be there. They're interviewing a good friend of mine, Ricky Rowell, and I am looking forward to hearing his story. And so we'll see if that ends up happening tonight. I know we had the North Shore RIA in Covington was on Tuesday night, and they postponed that one. We'll see when they rescheduled that investor meetup date. I've been attending these. Even though the North Shore RIA was one that I founded, I passed it off to Cole Freeshoe, who runs it now. I still attend them. They are something that, like, hey, I want to attend these meetings. I'm going to go there. I have some deals available, some off-market deals available that I'll be putting out there to people. And then the other part of that is that I will, I'm still looking to raise the private money for the 4 new construction properties that I am buying as rentals. And so I think I need to make some phone calls. I have 2 of my previous private money lenders who are interested in 2 or 3. So I'm buying 4 new construction properties, and I am either raising money for the whole thing, the whole down payment, or one per house, right? So instead of a big lump sum for the 4 as a package, or I can actually split them up individually, where I'm going to be having private money in first position to do the down payment, and then seller finance in second position. So looking forward to getting those finalized and hopefully closing on those next week. That's going to be what some of my phone calls are about today, is to start to firm up the lenders who want to lend. So even if some of you guys, if you would ever be interested, you could always even use this one as a chance to say, hey, I might not be able to lend on this one, but I want to hear what it looks like to lend on them in the future. You can always DM me. But this one, I'm looking for either $490,000 for the package, or the package of 4 properties, or I am looking for $122,500 per property. And if that's something that you're looking like, hey, I have some idle cash, I want to put it to work, let me know. and I can send you what that'll look like. Like I said, I've got some past lenders who are interested. I was waiting for us to kind of get past this storm, and then I'm going to finalize with them and say, hey, you want to go ahead, let's firm this up. And then so I can get this ball rolling. Speaking of this, with them being 4 new construction properties that I'm buying it with half with private money, half with seller finance. Waited until after the storm to pass to do the inspections, so that, you know, obviously we want to make sure, hey, after the hurricane just came through, we want to make sure these properties are in good condition. So just checking in with you guys. You guys been quiet today. No questions, nothing that you're working on, nothing that you want to talk about. You can either put your questions in the comments or request to go live with me, and I can bring you on up and we can talk, whether it's talk through your question or talk through a deal that you're working on. I know everyone's all excited. It's a good Thursday. Let's see. All right. All right, friends. I know a lot of folks want to join on here and they want to just listen. I know, it's easier that way. Well, look, let's talk through. I want to show you guys, something. Maybe this will get you guys, either get you guys talking or something. All right. All right. So here's my YouTube channel. This video today, if you're like, hey, I really enjoyed that one, but I had to leave, you know, each day I've been doing these lives. I am pitting them up on my YouTube channel. If you go to playlist, you can see live Q&A sessions, right? So they're all being put in there, and it's, you know, by the date. By the way, while I'm going through these, this is actually really good. If you haven't listened to these, opinions, debt or no debt on rentals. This is actually really good. I interviewed people who've been in the business for 20, 30, 40, 60 plus years, and I had them give their opinion on, you know, do they keep debt on their rentals or not? Or what's their goal? Obviously, my podcast is Strategic Success. Here's all the Louisiana specific stuff. So Louisiana Real Estate Talk. So these are either the podcasts that are specific to Louisiana or other stuff. I got Courtney's Mentors and Close Allies. This has 129 videos. It's all the goods online of some of my top mentors and closest friends. From the North Shore RIA, which was a RIA that I owned ran for many years. Basically, I have where I interviewed other investors. Basically, it's a version of my podcast, but just from the RIA, whereas a guest on other people's podcasts. And then anytime I've been at a RIA and I've spoke, those are all here. So that just gives you an idea of that. Now, going back to the podcast, let's see. If you guys haven't already, yesterday, I dropped episode 20, which is, episode 20, which is Coach Chad Carson. And you guys are going to want to check out that episode, okay? Here it is. The Small and Mighty Investor. Coach Chad Carson, you'll want to check that episode out. All right. I see that we got a question. Let's go back to that. All right. Prior to gaining the credence to bring on private lenders to fund your deals, how did you fund your rental property purchases? So, great question. My first rental property. So I shared just a little bit ago how I did my first property, which was a live-in flip. I had an inheritance. It was $40,000. I used the $40,000 plus a Home Depot credit card for all the materials and then sweat equity to do the rehab. I literally was on YouTube and people were showing me how to lay flooring, how to repair a hot water heater, how to change out fixtures. I got family to come help paint, all that stuff. Deals 2, 3, 4, I moved into that home and it was free and clear. And at that time I still had a W-2 job. So I got a home equity line of credit and I used that on the next handful of deals. And then after that, I started using private money, but that was for flips, right? So deals that I was in and out within 6 months, maybe 12 months max. And then after that, when I started my first 3 rentals, I bought subject to the debt, and I used my own money for the additional cost to get in. And then eventually over time, I was using subject to or seller financing, or at that point I started learning how to bring on long-term private money. So that's how I funded my rental properties in the beginning and then, over time. Does that answer your question? Good morning for everyone just joining. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. All is good here. Just mess to pick up outside and checking in on all the properties still. So I probably have 2 properties that I'm most worried about that I've got to either get my eyes on them or get someone to put their eyes on them. And then the one that the gate, part of the fence and part of the gate came down. That's not major. It shouldn't be anything crazy. So, well, look, if you guys got questions, if there's a deal that you're working on right now, if you've got a question, whether you want to put it here in the chat or if you want to come up, I will invite you up here and we'll talk here on the live. I'm happy to do that. But I wanted to come in and Janet, I'm more than happy to still share. Hurricanes happen. This one was a category 2. It was pretty. They had wild points last night, but at the same time, born and bred in Louisiana, so category 2 is not the end of the deal. The main worries with hurricanes these days is infrastructure. It's the infrastructure, so all of that is important. So, well, great. Janet, what is your script to get sellers? Good question. Here's going to be the hard part. I have a script, but at the end of the day, so specifically, are you asking to get sellers to sell at a discount? Are you asking, what a script for what? I want to make sure that I answer your question correctly. Because at the end of the day, so I don't necessarily have a script that I'll say this. Anytime I've learned from my mentors, and if you've listened to me for more than a few minutes, I often reference my mentors who have been in the business for, they've been in the business for, 50 to 60 plus years. And anytime they say something that I'm like, whoa, I like what they just said when they told a story about how they talked with the seller, that's what I like. That's what I like to take notes of. Well, look, I appreciate you listening on Clubhouse. I know I didn't join this morning. I usually do on Thursdays. So let's talk about how do I get a seller to do subject to. Let me pull up. I know you guys like when I do this. Let me pull up one of my manuals from one of my classes. Let's see. All right. So when it comes to the pitch for subject to, let's talk about it. All right. You come down here. All right. So I'm going to do this so you can kind of see it. When it comes down, first of all, my manuals are more they're written like I type. I mean, like I talk, because actually a lot of them I dictate to it. But let's talk about making a subject to offer. A lot of times, guys, by the way, in these lives, I pull from my manuals, because when I have my workshops, which I only do a handful of a year, they're the best way I can dump my brain. And this manual was 134 pages. My May class, so this is from an August class, my May class was 154 pages. And so varying on the different topics, right? So as much as information I can put out there. And so when I pull them up here, it's because I want to show you. So I have two different pitches. One, I call it my takeover payment program, right? So I don't use the word subject to the seller. I say, hey, here's my takeover payment program. And a huge part here is that I don't like using industry language with sellers unless they're a highly sophisticated seller. Maybe I've had plenty of real estate investors sell me their property subject to, so we can cut the bull and we can use industry language, right? Hey, I appreciate it. The manuals are for the workshops only. I have a lot of people who asked if they could purchase it after the class, but unfortunately they're for the workshops only, because I literally go through them throughout the entire class. And so the first one is the takeover payment program, where again, we're talking about it, where I am taking over their payments. I am not assuming the loan. I am literally just taking it over. And then the second one is what's called it's a trial offer. It's in the event that I could blank, is there any reason that you wouldn't consider that? Okay. So for example, I use the pitch number 2 the most. So I hear that you're concerned, and this is what it says here. So I hear that you're concerned that the longer this house sits on the market, the sooner you'll get behind on your mortgage payments because you can't juggle them for much longer. I know the market doesn't, if you catch on here, what I'm doing is I'm mirroring back to them. I'm sharing back to them what I heard them say. So so I'm hearing you say XYZ, right? I know the market doesn't look the most promising right now, especially heading into a seasonally low time like Christmas. In the event that I could help you avoid that, or getting behind on your payments, if I can help you avoid getting behind those payments, if I can help you avoid insert whatever the problem is, by buying your home and taking over your payments with your mortgage, would there be any reason why you wouldn't consider that option? This could help you, and then here's the big point, I'm going to sell the benefit. This could help you avoid getting behind the loan and would give you speed in this slow market. So, ultimately, I love that trial offer where it is, hey, in the event that I could, here's what I'm going to do. Is there any reason why you wouldn't consider that option? And this would help you, and then boom, let me tell you the benefit, right? So in the event that I could buy your house and take over making the payments on your behalf, and I could make the payment as soon as, for example, so today is the 12th, September 12th, I could, in the event that I could buy your house and take over making the payments as soon as the October payment, is there any reason, and this would help you avoid getting behind on your payments even further. This could help you avoid the foreclosure. This could help you, hey, I know you said you're moving to Utah. You got that new job. This could help you move to Utah and say, hey, my house isn't just sitting on the market hoping that it sells, but hey, I'm actually going to, you would actually get speed in a slow market. Is there any reason why you wouldn't consider that? And then if they say yes, see that as consent to start talking further, right? I'm a big believer that you don't want to, word vomit on people, right? Some people will go to a seminar, they'll learn about something like subject to, and every seller then is going to get an earful about subject to, whether it applies or not. I mean, the seller could have, literally a free and clear house. I'm like, hey, can I buy your house subject to the mortgage? And they're like, I just told you, I own this house outright, right? But the investor gets so excited. And so then it's like, hey, I'm just going to jump to this, right? So that's how I offer that to sellers. I'm a big believer in selling the benefits, but also disclosing the risk. So, for example, I'm going to say, hey, they say, yeah, well, I wouldn't be opposed to hearing more about that. Okay. So then I'll say, hey, well, so this is what it could look like. What I could do is I could purchase the house. I know you've been saying you just want to get what you owe for it. And do you know what that is again? You were saying, was it like what? 225,000, right? And do you know if you have any other liens or judgments? Okay, you have an HOA lien. Okay, do you know about how much that is? Okay, well, so in the event, I would purchase the house. I would take over. I would purchase it for what you owe, and I would take over making those payments on your behalf, right? So this is important because it can be a solution, and I've helped many families in our area with this option, but I'll be honest, there's risk for both you and for me, so both parties have risk. So I want to make sure that I explain it to both of us, not to both of us, but I explain it so that both of us understand what we're getting into, right? And so then from there, I'll say, well, look, if this is something you want to consider, let me tell you what it looks like. And then if you say, hey, yeah, I still want to consider it further, then we can look at taking the next step. So what I'll do is say, hey, look, what'll happen is, so I'll purchase, the property. So we're going to go to a title company. The title is going to transfer. It's going to be like a normal closing. But on top of this, know that the loan is still going to stay in your name. That is important to keep in mind. So this is an option, but it does have implications past today. So the fact that it's still tied to your name means that it's still tied to your credit. Now, in order for this to work, in order for this to work, I'm going to start making the payments on your behalf, and then I keep making those payments, right? And in order for it to work on my end is, for example, if your credit is ever impacted, for example, if you ever, consider something like bankruptcy or divorce or something like that, we can always talk about what that looks like. But, there's impacts on both sides. So I would take over making the payments. And ultimately, for example, I say, hey, today's, September 12th. This is something I could do potentially as soon as get this done within the next few weeks, and I can make October's payment. And we would set it up to where I would make the payment every month on your behalf to the lender. Now, I know that you've got a job. Let's just say, hey, they're moving to Utah, right? You've got a job that you're moving to Utah. Do you know if you're going to rent there, if you're going to buy a house? Have you already bought a house there? That is the number one question that when I am pitching subject to, I have to get that answered. Because that can provide some complications when it comes to, it's like, what are their next steps? The best scenarios are when they have already bought another house, or they're looking to rent for the next few years. Those are the best scenarios. When they're looking to immediately buy, that's when we need to have a different conversation. So, and then basically what I do is I share a little bit, and I kind of share high level. And then I say, hey, if that's something you want to consider, I can tell you whether or not this is something that I can actually do. But one of the things we need to look at is, hey, you said, you owe about $225. If you could get me, and I'll look at my watch and I'll say, okay, today's September 12th. Can you get me September's mortgage statement, the most recent mortgage statement? Hey, let's take a look at that. If you can send that to me, then, or if I'm with them at their house, if you can pull that up, I can take a look at it. And then, hey, you said you owe the other lien you own a house is an HOA lien. Hey, let's take a look at that. And let's see what's going on there. And then let's start seeing if this is something that we can do. Like, hey, let's see if this is something that we can figure out. I've got to, look at the numbers before I can say yes one way or the other. And then I can kind of go from there. It's a good question. Was that helpful understanding about like how I talk to sellers about subject to? Another thing that Janet, yeah, great. I'm glad that helped. another thing that's important, you guys, is, again, I'm a huge believer in, you want to sell the benefits, but you have to disclose the risk. So, I get people all the time who, so I do a lot of business with real estate agents. I get a lot of realtors who reach out to me because they got a subject to offer on their listing. And so many of them have just forwarded me, they have literally have just forwarded me the email they got for the offer. And at the end of the day, I mean, I have seen offers where people say, hey, you know, I would just, you know, I'd buy the house, I'd take over making the payments on the mortgage, and there's literally no risk to the seller. And I'm like, that's not true, right? So understand this, you can still get deals and still, one of my favorite books back here, it's actually on, it's not back here, it's on my desk. I keep my like 4 favorite books on my desk. And it's literally, there's a concept in that book where it says that you do not want your best client to be uninformed. Meaning, you don't want your best client to be like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm doing it, right? And so, at the end of the day, and I'm not going to grab the book because that would make me have to walk into, I'd have to walk into another room, and I don't think I want to do that. All right, so you've got, this is the book, and I recommend it. If you listen to my podcast, I've talked about it in like 4 episodes, but this is the book that I'm talking about. It's called Extreme Trust, Honesty as a Competitive Advantage. Guys, I am a huge fan of this book. It's by Don Peppers. Okay. This is a fantastic book. I read it in like 2020, and it completely changed. I don't want to say it completely, but like it resonated so strongly with me that I immediately went back and I started improving, you know, my marketing and my conversations with sellers. So my point with that is you can pitch a subject to offer and actually have your, you know, the seller be informed, that client be informed of the risk, and they can still say yes and you still do the deal. A lot of people, they don't inform the other party because they are afraid that it'll kill the deal. But I want the deals that I do, I want all parties to be informed. Now, I'm not going to word vomit on them when it's not necessary. That's the fine line. So, hey, I'm glad that was helpful for you guys. Hongi said, you definitely make a very natural conversation, which is, look, that's the goal. I am not a big fan of scripts that are like, say this, then this, right? A lot of times in my manuals, I literally, again, will put on my phone where I literally start talking and it writes into the manual, like what I'm saying, because that's what's most important. I don't want you to sound like a robot, right? And so then I may have sections that go over objections, like, well, if the seller says, you know, what if this? Well, then, okay, these are my responses, right? And then, you know, I want it to be natural, but I also want you to ultimately, people do business with me because one of the main factors is because they're like, Courtney, I felt like that you were authentic, that you were, you know, genuinely here to help, right? And those things are so hard to come across when you're reading a script, right? So understand scripts are helpful for a baseline, but keep that in mind. Let's see. Have you considered offering your course virtually for those that do not live in Louisiana? I appreciate that. Sometimes I do workshops on Zoom, but the one that I just did in August, which I see that my good friend Ellis is on, he was here for it. The one that I just did in Louisiana, that was my first in-person one. Literally last year, I did one at a hotel. I had 130 people in the room, a big, you know, hotel room sized one. I mean, they're fine. And then the one that I just did in August was in a house, and I capped it at 30 people. And it was more of like a masterclass, deep dive. Everyone got to know everyone in the room type of thing. And then I've done them, you know, with 100 people on Zoom. So I do them a few different ways. What I don't do is I don't sell a seminar in a box, where basically I don't have a website where you can just go and purchase a manual, purchase a recorded. That's just not my style. I'm not in the business of education, and I'm not trying to be someone who's, milking education for every penny you get from it, because I understand that in doing all of that, that takes away from what I'm doing elsewise, which is I'm still very actively doing deals. And so I have not, I think I'm going to do maybe 5 in 2025. I think I'm done with doing workshops for 2024. I'll be very honest. I'm in a heavy buying mode right now. I have, 5 properties under contract, and I've only stopped making offers right now because next Saturday I go out of not this Saturday, but the next Saturday I go out of the country for 2.5, 3 weeks. And so I'm like trying to pull back on the gas for a second. Let me close these 5 before going out of the country. And then when I get back, I'm about to put my foot through the, floorboard on the gas again, making offers. And so, but I genuinely, number one, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy sharing. But at the same time, I also feel a level of duty and responsibility to take what my mentors have taught me and to pass it on. They're in their 70s. One of them is no longer with us, one of my main mentors. And so a lot of my mentors are from the old school era of creative finance. And unfortunately, they are, getting older and passing away. And I want to carry on their legacy. I want to carry on what they've taught me. And I want more investors to come at it from this approach where they're like, hey, I'm here to help. That I want to do deals. Usually I have a t-shirt on that says how you do real estate matters. And I want to empower and encourage other investors to do the same. That they're doing deals, technically they're doing them where, they're doing the paperwork right. They're technically, structuring deals right, safe as possible for everyone involved. And then on the other side, how you do real estate matters is also how you treat people, right? That you want all parties to be informed, that you want to, that you do care about protecting all parties involved, right? And that, a lot of times I'm stopping foreclosures. A lot of times I'm doing stuff where people's backs are against the wall, and it's how you treat them in those moments that matters too. I appreciate that. Hey, Ellis, are you still on the call with, on the live? If so, let me know. I don't think he's still on. He might be. If not, I was going to pull him up. Ellis and I are considering doing a class together next year. And specifically, we're looking at doing it on how to solve title issues, because that's a big thing him and I have done that I think a lot of people don't know, like some of the simple basics, like 101 on that. But yeah, well, look, guys, any other questions? Any questions about whether it's something we've already talked about, something new, a deal you're working on, something else like that? I know today I am, number one, trying to stay informed I have 5 different property managers, so I'm reaching out to all of them. I have one furnished property that has a booking until the 20th. So that has a booking for the next 8 days. And we're already getting people who are interested in booking after that person. So I'm getting with my property manager on that one to say, hey, look, just because some people who might have sustained some damage, they say, hey, I want to go live in a house versus a hotel while insurance handles my house, so those are some things. Janet says, I have an out-of-state client that is going into foreclosure that won't do subject to, but needs help. Can I DM you info? I'll say this. I'm happy to talk with it a bit now. You're welcome to DM me. I'm happy to give you some thoughts on it. Here's the thing. When someone's facing foreclosure, you have to figure out what they're trying to accomplish. Is their biggest goal to profit XYZ? Is their biggest goal to stay in the house? To keep the property, to, basically stop the foreclosure, but still own it? Or is their biggest goal, I don't care how we do it, just stop the foreclosure? that's always really hard. So I've been stopping foreclosures for the last 10 years, and that's the number one thing you've got to get answered, because that's going to lead me in the direction of how can I help them. If someone wants to stay in the house, I'm going to take some options off the table at that point, right? Or if they're like, hey, I want to stop the foreclosure, but I don't want to do this or this. Well, in the world of stopping foreclosures, there's a lot of things that you want to see happen, but there's a difference between want and need. And depending on how, depending on the situation, like if they have equity, if they don't have equity, depending on, a lot of other complexities are what ways can we help? So I'll do my best, Janet, to get back in a timely manner. I will say tomorrow I do plan on, today's day 4 of 10 that I'm going live here on Instagram. If you want, I'm happy, tomorrow, if you, I think there's a way that you can say, hey, get an alert when I go live. And if you can join, I'm happy to talk about it with you in the general specifics. You don't have to say, hey, Courtney, here on live, the address is 123 Main Street and, wherever. So, but we can talk about some of the general specifics and go from there. Because if they're facing foreclosure, honestly, Subject 2's been a very strong tool. And if they're not open to it, there's usually an objection. And the question is, what's the objection? Cool. Any other questions, you guys, before we start to finish up here? I don't know how long I've been going today, but I think it's going to be less than an hour today. I am going to go finish checking in on my properties and finish doing a few other things, and then see if they have this investor meetup in town tonight, because that was on my schedule. I have to see if it's still on my schedule for tonight. Well, thank you guys. Have a great one. I will have this, if you're like, hey, I missed the beginning of this, I'll have it downloaded and uploaded to my YouTube at some point later. And for those of you who are like, hey, I do want to hear when you have your next workshops, if you go to CourtneyFricky.com, I obviously put it out on social media when it comes out, but I also, I have a newsletter where I send once or twice a month, I send an email with some of my strategic thoughts, and then at the bottom is where I have some vetted classes. So like I attend 6 to 10 conferences a year, so I usually put those on those emails, and I say, hey, Courtney is attending this one, or Courtney is speaking at this one, or Courtney is hosting this class. And so if you sign up for that, it's a free newsletter, and I promise you, I only send 1 or 2 emails a month. You're more than welcome to sign up for that as well. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for checking in. All is well here in New Orleans, just some minor headaches with some repairs, but other than that, thankfully everyone's safe and everything's okay. You guys have a good one. Talk soon. See y'all tomorrow.